Are you thinking of buying a second flash but you're not sure what to get? I'm going to give you some things to think about on today's episode of
Ask David Bergman.
Hey there everybody, welcome back. Here I am, as always, answering your photography questions right here on Adorama TV. If you've got a photo question, you know what to do by now. Just go to askdavidbergman.com and submit that form on the site. I just might pick your question to answer right here on a future show. Today's question was sent in by Tara K, and she wants to know, I have a Westcott FJ400 strobe with some modifiers and want to invest in a second light. Should I get another FJ400 so both are the same power, or would that be too strong in the studio because I wouldn't be able to turn it down enough? Should I get the FJ200 instead? I'm overwhelmed by all the choices. I don't want to buy more than I need, but also want something that will grow with me in the future. Thanks, David. Well, thank you, Tara, for sending that question in. It's a good one and a very common dilemma that photographers have when they're starting to upgrade their lights. First thing I'm going to do is talk about why you might want to add a second light in the first place. Now, you probably know when you're first starting out with off-camera flash, whether it's for portraits or still lifes, event photography, or anything else, it's usually best to begin with just one strobe. By the way, some photographers like to refer to portable speedlight-sized units as flashes and bigger studio lights as strobes. For me, they're both the same thing, so I use the words flash and strobe interchangeably. Don't get too hung up on the nomenclature in the rest of this video. Anyway, I think it's smart to master one light first. There's a lot you can do with just one flash, and making it work for you is a great way to learn how to light. But eventually you're going to run into some limitations and are going to want to add a second light to your setup. That opens up a whole new world of possibilities that are limited really only by your imagination. Now, I'm not going to demo these techniques here in this video. That might be a topic for another video if someone sends in the questions, but I just wanted to show you some photos that are going to give you an idea of what you can do with two strobes. A very common technique is to use one light from the front as your key light, maybe with a large modifier like a softbox, and then have a second light overhead and a little behind your subject. We call that either a hair light or a rim light. In this photo I made of musician Archie Pena, you can see the soft light on his face, but also the highlight on top of his hat that adds some interest and separation from the background. Another reason to have a second light is that you can put a gel on it to change the color. If you only have one light, you're not going to be able to make your background different than your subject without doing a lot of time-consuming retouching in the computer. Instead, you can just gel that light that's pointed towards the background and keep your key light gel-free. Simply being able to light the background separately with another light gives you more control over how the background looks. Besides color, you can also change the quality and the direction of the light too. In this photo I made of my old Canon 1DX Mark III, I used the second light to get a cool pattern and a color in the background. Now, still talking about portraits, you can also use the second flash as a fill light. For this series of celebrity portraits I did about 10 years ago, this was to raise money for the Superstorm Sandy benefit, I used only two lights on my subject. Camera right is my key light, while the one on camera left is powered down just a little bit to get some contrast while still filling in most of the shadows. It's a clean, classic look that I thought worked really well for this event. Now, I can also choose to make the second light brighter than my key light, giving me this unique look for portraits of these hysterically funny men, Jonathan Mangum, Greg Proops, and Charles Eston. Now, it's also common to use a second light at a corporate event or a wedding reception, either to light the background directly or pointed right back into the camera for a cool modern look. I've been known to use that technique when making pictures at club concerts, like this one of Hailey Whitters at a small venue here in New York City. It's actually three lights, but I could have done it with just two, one in front and one gelled light hitting from behind. And you can also add a second light to get more power from your strobes. Every time you double the amount of light, you get one more stop of exposure. When I photographed Colby James outdoors at a music festival, I wanted to gel the lights so I could turn the background blue. I also knew that the lights are going to be kind of farish away because they were on that tent, and I really didn't want to put them somewhere in front of that where it was going to disrupt the show. I knew I was going to lose some power with the gels, plus that distance. Having that second flash really meant that I could get enough power, even lowering the power of each of those flashes, giving me faster recycle times and making my batteries last longer. In the end, it really helped the picture to pop off the page. Now, one last reason to have a second light on location is simply for backup. Even if you're only doing one light shoots, it can simply stop working, or it could come crashing down if someone, God forbid, trips over your light stand. Having that second light ready to go can really give you a lot of peace of mind. Also, make sure you have insurance for those kinds of liability issues. So now that you know some of the reasons why you'd add a second light, let me get to Tara's question about which one to add. She's using the Westcott strobes, which are the same ones that I use, and I'm going to refer to the Westcott lights for this video, but of course you can use any brand you want. She's really just asking about different power levels. As long as both lights are from the same manufacturer, you should be able to trigger them with the same remote, which makes it really easy to add more and more flashes. I don't recommend trying to mix and match systems. It usually doesn't work very well. Now, here's the FJ400 right here. Boom, this is the Westcott FJ400. It's a 400 watt-second battery-powered flash. Now, it's portable, okay, but it's big and heavy. On the other hand, here is the FJ200, right? It's half the power at 200 watt-seconds, but a heck of a lot smaller and lighter. I mean, you can see, obviously, a big difference, and trust me on the weight, there is definitely a weight difference. So which one should you buy as your second light if you already have an FJ400? Well, as with many photography questions, the answer is, it depends. It depends how you're really using the lights. If you shoot outdoors a lot and you need to overpower the sun, get the second FJ400 because it's going to give you a lot of power. Also, if you have a bunch of light modifiers for the FJ400 already and you want them to work with your new flash, stick with the FJ400. The 200 has to be adapted to be used with the full-size Bowens mount like the FJ400. If you're only using FJ200s, then you can buy the Westcott switch inserts, which are going to adapt to your modifiers to those lights. If you're using another brand, you got to check the manual to see if the different powered lights use different modifiers. That could be different depending on what lights you're using. Now, if size and weight are your biggest considerations, like let's say you're a hiker, for example, then you're going to lean towards the lean and mean FJ200. Yes, there is also a cost difference between these two lights. The FJ400 is currently $599 US, and the FJ200 is $399. That is a pretty significant difference, but of course, you're giving up power for that price savings. Now, Tara asked about the FJ400 being a problem in the studio because you might not be able to dial it down low enough without potentially overexposing your subject, especially if you're shooting with a wide open aperture like 1.4 or even 2.8. I personally haven't really found this to be an issue in the studio, but if it is a problem for you, here's a little trick. Buy yourself a few sheets of, boom, inexpensive neutral density gels, and you can put these over your light if needed. So it depends what modifier you're using, but let's say you're using this reflector, you can simply tape it on there, wrap it around, and tape it on. Very, very simple to use. These neutral density gels are very inexpensive, and what they do is they reduce the power output of the light, completely fixing your problem of overexposure at wide apertures. If you look through here, I'm a lot darker than I am without this. Now, these are particularly old and they're kind of dirty, right? I have a few of these. You can also gang them up, right? So this is now twice the reduction in light. You can see how very little you're seeing of me once I do that compared to one. Like I said, these are a little old and dirty, but if you've got new ones that are nice and clean, you're not going to lose any quality of your light. It's just going to fire through here. All it's going to do is lower the exposure that's going through there. That's going to completely solve your problem if you can't quite get low enough power on this big FJ400 in the studio. So Tara, in my opinion, if price is no object, I would lean towards another FJ400. It's gonna just give you the most options. Like you said, room to grow. You're not gonna have to worry about that. If you're outdoors, you're gonna have plenty of power, and you can always use the neutral density gels if you do have an issue in the studio. However, if you're looking to save some money and you want a smaller, lighter unit, and you don't need to overpower the sun very often, you're just gonna be working indoors, the FJ200 is gonna be your way to go. This thing will take really good care of you for a long time. I hope that answers your question, maybe helps a few of you as well out there. Let me know down in the comments below. Remember, send in your photo questions to askdavidbergman.com. If you like these videos, I do always appreciate you hitting that like button. And of course, subscribing to the Adorama YouTube channel. Click that bell icon so you're notified when new shows come out for myself and all the other photo hosts right here on Adorama TV. Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope you'll come back next time right here on Ask David Bergman.